Hi everyone, so how are you guys doing? So I'm just here with my mate Adam, and we've been working on a beat, and we've been using also Internal, which is his Internal Studio, which is he's the creator of Internal Studio, and we've been creating an interesting tuning using Contact as well inside Internal. We got these chords going on the project. One of the things I wanted to share with you today is the creative possibilities of hybrid reverb, which maybe some of you might know, or some of you might have used this in the past. But hybrid reverb uses a convolution reverb engine, which means that you can actually use real spaces as your reverbs, which is pretty crazy. And basically, it's a reverb that is endless. You can keep loading different impulse responses, which are like the responses of real spaces, real rooms, right? You can do that maybe with like a clap, take a balloon and explode a balloon, etc. And then you can record that sound and then use that as a reverb, as a reference for the hybrid reverb. But there's another interesting thing. There's a little twist I'm going to show you in a minute that can make things really, really exciting and interesting. Let's go over to Ableton. So you can see we got this beat going. Right. Right, so here's Internal, which has been, as you can see, it's just a Contact that we've been using. An electric piano, right, with multiple channels. We were setting that earlier. So what we're going to do now is add some flavor to this. Let's go over to the audio effects, and the hybrid reverb is going to be located obviously under your reverb and resonance. And one of the things that's really interesting about the hybrid reverb is that we got two things within it. So we've got the convolution reverb, and we also have got an algorithmic reverb. So obviously the convolution reverb is the one that you can just load in your own impulse responses. And the algorithmic reverb is one that is emulating different room sizes and so on and so forth, but it's all obviously like digitally emulated. This is obviously can blend between the convolution and the algorithmic reverb, but for now we're going to be only using the convolution reverb. Let's just start with the drum beat. So the first thing I'm going to do, there's two things that we can do with convolution reverb as well. We can actually add real spaces to the drums. And here you can see that we've got a selection of different environments. So we can go for, it says, made for drums. And we can use passively, like the one I find that works the best is the live studio room. I'm going to solo it. Right. Normally what I tend to do is I tend to have it 100% wet just to hear what the reverb actually does to the sound. But here is a little bit of a tricky thing that we could do. We call it decay control. So it basically means that we can actually shorten the length of the decay. And that can also be really interesting as a way to kind of add dimension to sounds. And this can be applied to, or not only drums, you can even apply this to bass sounds, and you can apply that to any other sound if you feel like your music lacks a little bit of depth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and shorten the decay. We can even overemphasize.
So now you don't really notice there's a reverb there, but can you turn it off so we can hear the difference?
Yeah, of course.
And then put it back.
You can hear the dimension.
Can you switch between them a few times? Wow, it's sort of...
Yeah.
It's just like changed the sound, rather. It doesn't sound like a reverb anymore.
And then here, for example, the size is kind of like, it changes the size of the reverb, but it basically is a pitch control. When we load it inside the hybrid reverb, is a sample. So this is basically like a pitch control. So sometimes you can change the size and you can make a shorter or longer kind of reverb sound. So that's like almost like in a very tiny room, but it's higher in pitch, and it sounds higher in pitch actually. And that's farther away and wider, right? But for now I'm going to keep it like that, and I'm going to overemphasize the stereo so it's like even wider. You can also use this thing if you want to keep your bass to mono. There's a mono switch here that means that the kick drum will remain kind of centered while the rest of the elements are going to be slightly wider, just in case. And then the good thing with this is that you can just blend it in. So just adding dimension, if I turn it off, goes back in the center. And with that, you get all this extra
bit of width,
extra width, but it's a natural.
Yeah, it sounds a bit more natural.
It's a natural sound. So suddenly, like, you program in a beat and you're actually making that beat sound within a specific space. And because you're doing that, suddenly it just sounds more natural to our ears. So that's one way that we can do it. And obviously, like, you don't have to use it directly in the channel. The best way I find is actually create a template whenever you start working on a track and actually have it loaded up as a return channel instead, because you got a little bit more control. I feel like it's a lot easier. And just obviously, if you were to load this into a return channel, please make sure that you set the driver to 100%, as you know, right? Otherwise, you're going to hear the original signal and the reverb at the same time. But as an easy, many of my students make this mistake. So this is why I'm saying to you guys, like, please make sure you do that. Here you can see you can go quite far with it. But I prefer it with it.
Yeah, it's adds to the body.
It sounds a bit like, you can do that kick.
Yeah, it really brings out the kick.
It's got more dimension as well, right? So that's one thing that can be really interesting. Nice. So that's one way of playing around with a hybrid reverb. But now we've got the sequence that we made with Tonal earlier. So at the moment, the sound is cool, but it doesn't have any kind of movement, or, you know, it's kind of mono as well. So let's explore hybrid reverb. I'm just going to drag it directly next to Tonal. Ableton has created a selection of different reverb types that you can choose from. It also has got a user section, basically means that you can load in any impulse responses that you download from the internet or you create yourself. So let's add a little bit of flavor to this. I'm going to just explore this section called textures. And again, I just want to use just the convolution side of it. So I'm using the blend all the way to the left rather than halfway through. And I'm just going to just have a listen to this. These are different textures that Ableton created. And some of them can be quite experimental if we listen to some of them.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That's amazing.
I'm gonna say something else. So I don't know if you noticed on the hybrid reverb.
I even like that already.
Yeah.
That's cool.
On the hybrid reverb, we got pre-delay. Generally, on a reverb, you use pre-delay to kind of like create a little bit of distance between the listener and the space that they are in.
Right.
So pre-delay makes the listener kind of sound a little bit closer to us, and then you hear more of the room after that, right? So what we could do is we can actually use this as a delay unit as well. So we can use the pre-delay and we can actually set that to bars and beats if we want it. So 16 notes, for example. And there's a feedback control here too, which suddenly is not just a reverb anymore.
Let's hear this.
Let's add a little bit more.
It's like a spaced out delay.
And obviously at the moment I've got the driver is 100%. And again, you can add more stereo width. I always do that. I love it.
What does the vintage switch do?
The vintage switch, it just adds a little bit of like a lo-fi feel to it. Kind of like lo-fi with like noise, and stream obviously adds like beat depth reduction, which I don't like, but that sounds kind of cool. This kind of sounds a little bit like
that, yeah.
It adds even crackle to it. It's funny, they just add like crackle and kind of like noise. You can actually hear the noise coming through it. Yeah. So if you want to add a little bit of character, that's where the vintage comes in. So you see that this can be quite cool. If I bring let's bring it in. I remember we got this size here, so we can change the kind of pitch of those bubbles if you want it. Let's make them. That's nice. Right, so shorter size, the pitch goes up. Higher size, pitch goes down. Go up. If I go really high, obviously it's going to sound like a muffled weird texture. You can go up to 500%, so that's going to be like a rumble. You don't even hear it, look. Oh, that's cool. But you can explore all these things, right? Let's keep it like that.
Maybe a little bit lower.
Yeah, you can explore that, of course. Go for it. Remember, guys, we're only using just the bubbles texture. There's some of the other textures within the hybrid reverb. So with hybrid reverb, we can, as I mentioned, we can load in our own impulse responses, but we can also load in whatever we want.
All right.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds a bit like a, oh, I don't know, a vocoder on steroids when you start adding your own samples.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just go for a guitar. Let's try that for a laugh. Right, so you can see that the guitar is now loaded into the hybrid reverb. So let's have a listen to what that sounds like. I don't know if it's going to sound any good or not.
I think this would make more sense on the drums. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not.
We could, yeah, of course. But
the reason I say that is just because they've got a certain tuning.
Yeah, they got.
But
yeah, let's
maybe,
try it. Let's try it on the drums just to as an additional effect. Yeah, of course. I think that could be good. I'm gonna turn on the other hybrid reverb that we got there. That's a really good idea. Because it's gonna be more noticeable because they got a much more defined transient as well, so you can really hear the effect. Right, let's have a listen to the drums.
Yeah. Sounds really dubby.
It's crazy. That's just a guitar sample. Right, we can remove the low end. Right, that's just a guitar with a very short decay. We can increase the decay. Change the pitch of the guitar. It's like a completely different.
We've got half a track going on already. That's nearly, yeah.
It's like a completely different realm when you experiment with this. And this is just a guitar. We can also add, I don't know, keys. Yeah, so you can hear that. That's really cool. Like that's like really interesting flavor, and it's worth exploring different samples. Sometimes you can explore like kicks, snares, hi-hats, especially sounds that they have got like a reverb within them, and then you can use them as a reverb, or you can use them for like special effects sort of thing, or or you can create like some crazy delays, which is what we were doing before with the bubbles. So don't forget about that, is the fact that you can actually use this as a delay unit with really crazy flavors added to it, which you won't be able to get with any delay.
It's amazing.
Yeah, hybrid reverb.
It's really, I love
insane.
the way it's really in Ableton style, integrated, very flexible.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to. Turn that off.
Yeah, turn that off from the beat for now. So what you wanted to do? Amplitude modulation?
Yeah, I wanted to do so maybe have an LFO after this, modulating the amplitude and sidechain to the kick as well. Okay. So we get like this sort of movement in the sound.
Yeah, of course. There's two things how you can do. You can either use an LFO, or we can also use the panner, the actual auto pan, to create movement.
Yeah, let's do auto pan because it'd be nice to have a bit of stereo movement with it.
So if you go to the auto pan, if you set the auto pan to phase 0, means that this becomes a volume control, and we can speed it up, or we can set it, I don't know.
Yeah, let's
in hertz. You can change the rate.
Yeah, that's and then make it a bit more.
And you can apply phase if you want it as well, which is gonna phase.
That makes it turns it into.
Yeah, but you can be subtle if you want it, so it can be like a very subtle different. So it just adds more dimension.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Cool.
And then let's have a sidechain.
Sidechain compressor.
Sidechain just at the kick.
Yeah. So if we go over to the compressor, just drag it in there. The settings for sidechain a kick drum, use peak. I'll tell you this from experience and from teaching. Use peak because it's gonna react the fastest to the kick drum.
Okay.
And then what I normally do is I use the sidechain, and then find the where the beats are obviously located, which is on channel 3. Find the kick, which is let's have a look because I don't know which one it is.
It's the first kick, I think.
Yeah, it should show up here as well. I'm gonna do pre-effects. You already see the peaks going down. I'm gonna maybe just set the ratio much higher and start bringing the threshold down. Yeah, that's nice. It's quite quick. And remember remember that this EQ here, it allows us to kind of fine tune the kick. So you can sidechain to the fundamental of the kick, and you can sidechain to the actual noisy part of the kick drum as well. So you can have like a super sharp, defined sidechain. If we actually hear the kick drum coming through this channel by just using the EQ, now I can maybe use like a lot of EQ to overemphasize it. You see, I mean, you can sidechain it to the clickiness of the kick.
Interesting.
Or to the body of the kick. I think in this instance, I think it's
the body.
Yeah.
The body's fine.
Yeah. So if we listen to it now, let's do a little bit more. Yeah, it's there. It's not like in your face, but
yeah, maybe increase the release a little bit just to make it more. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more.
So we can be as precise as we want, and this is one of the things with sidechain. You can be extremely precise if you start playing with EQ. Start off the high reverb.
Do you know what else I want to do?
Yeah, go
is modulate the rate. Can we do that?
Yeah, you can use an LFO modulating the autophone.
So if we put that back to so it's free. Just subtle. That kind of thing. Yeah, I want to modulate that. So where do we put the LFO? How do we do that? Is this is this like a? Do we need Max for Live for this now?
No, Ableton 11 has got the LFO already built into it.
Okay.
Now, so you can just like drag and drop. I don't know. You can put it anywhere in the chain, to be honest. Okay. But I'm just gonna put it next to it because it's easier. And then you would map the rate.
Yeah.
To the LFO, and then here we can set the depth.
Just set it nice and subtle and slow as well. Really slow.
And quite slow.
Bit maybe in between. Yeah.
Somewhere like that.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, maybe even less depth.
Yeah, that's nice. And of course, we can send the keys also to the other higher reverb if you want it. That's kind of.
Another thing I wanted to try is going all wet.
Yeah, that's because it's a lot of feedback building up on that.
So if I reduce the feedback a little,
you can also reduce the send amount. It's kind of like a volume.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, try that now. Yeah, so not clicking. It's great. So you can kind of decide how much of the signal you send into the high reverb by using the send.
That's what that is. Okay.
It's really clever. I'm hoping that Ableton will implement this on other effects too. That'd be really great. And of course, needless to say that you could chain high reverbs, each one of them adding something extra.
Yeah, I thought of that, yeah.
Sky's the limit. Literally.
Try a bit of the vintage.
Yeah, just click and drag. Yeah, it's adding a little bit of tape. Tape noises now, you can hear it now. There's an EQ as well built into the high reverb, so if you need to reshape the tonality that's introducing, if you got like resonance, if there's any resonance that you don't like,
you can put it down.
Yeah, you can sort of. I do like the resonance of that.
Yeah, it's good to like pull down the mids there.
That's quite
Like that. Wicked.
Yeah, nice one. Wicked. Cool. So yeah, so we, as you can see, guys, we've been working on this, and you can see that Hybrid Reverb can be a highly creative tool. Almost, you can think of it as a vocoder, but like on steroids, and you can just load in any samples. And you saw as well when we were working with the beat. I really like that, obviously for like another song, but I absolutely love what we were creating with the. I think that was the guitar. I mean,
yeah, it was the guitar.
Yeah, but any.
I mean, it's just like instant dub.
Yeah,
basically.
It's crazy. Yeah, and
yeah.
I mean, obviously, it could be a guitar. It could be like a synth sound of some sort. Like, I don't know. Oh, don't know if that would work. Let's
you
try
want
that.
something with a lot of harmonics in, probably. Sounds like a sort of plate or
like
string reverb.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Really great sound design tool.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then obviously remember, change the size, and that's going to give you a completely different sound.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few convolution reverbs around, but it's great to have it integrated into Ableton, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's other options in the market, of course, and there's also the convolution reverb within Ableton in Max for Life as well. But I just find that the way the Hybrid Reverb works in terms of like CPU resources and stuff is just so handy, and the feedback is just something I haven't seen in convolution reverbs before. The feedback is a bit like
because it turns it into a delay.
Yeah,
basically.
Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So you can have delays with like character that wasn't possible before. Like, you know, I mean, you could get some interesting delays by playing around with filters and stuff like that. But now it's actually where you're like imprinting the character of one sound onto the delay itself, which is
sick.
It's unheard of. So thank you so much, Adam, for having me. And thanks so much, guys, for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And any questions, give us a shout. Subscribe, as I always say. Leave a comment if you can. That'll be amazing. In the meantime, see you all very, very soon. All right, take care.